Welcome back, YouTube. Today we are going to be going through another Q&A video. So if this is your first time here, what happens is I jump onto my Instagram and I pop up a little question box which lets you pop whatever questions you want to me to then answer. Now I do something like this every single day on Instagram and on Facebook, where I run live stream videos every morning where I answer all of your questions. However, due to the nature of live stream videos, it's sometimes hard for me to be able to go to the same level of detail that I would like to when answering some questions. So in this video, I'm going to be able to go a lot deeper into all the different variables and the context and the hows and whys that go into me making the decisions that I do around the questions that I'm going to be getting. I'm not really sure what questions I'm going to end up answering. I'm just going to scroll through here and pick out whatever just jumps out at me as interesting and something that I'll be able to go into a good amount of detail for you guys, help you understand these concepts a little bit better. I will also be putting timestamps to all the questions that I end up answering down to the pinned comments below, and I'll also be populating the progress bar down here into different sections so you can jump ahead or jump backwards. You can pause the video, come back to it in a couple of days' time to finish it off. You can do whatever you want to make sure that you get to go through all the content at your leisure. So while you're here, please do give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because little gestures like that help this channel grow and turn it into a much bigger channel, which means I can create even more content for you guys. All right, so let me just have a little bit of a scroll through here and find question numero uno. Okay, so Leo.Rangel_ is asking, opinion on bodyweight training versus weight training. So this is obviously a very broad question. I'm going to try to maybe simplify it down and I'm going to assume you're asking more about for maybe muscle building or for gaining strength. And I'll answer it in those two different contexts. So bodyweight training is something that's going to be a little bit more popular now with a lot of gyms being shut or a lot of lockdowns being in place around the world. And maybe even if gyms are open now, maybe you're a little bit apprehensive about going back to the gym, or maybe you prefer training at home, or maybe if none of those things apply, maybe you're traveling, maybe you're on the road like I've done a lot over the years and need to find a way to be able to train effectively with very minimal equipment. And you're wondering can you still get some kind of meaningful result or any result, or even an optimal result, just using body weights or minimal equipment versus using your typical conventional weights training? And for the most part, I say yes, because what we need to understand is the build of the mechanism here behind how your body builds strength and how your body builds muscle mass. So your body builds muscle mass as a result of some kind of stimulus being placed upon your body that stimulates something called mechanical tension within your body. Now, to help us, I guess, simplify this and take away some of the more geeky words, all that's required for your body to get the signal to say, hey, build some muscle, is it has to be a high level of perceived effort. Your body has to be straining and working against some kind of resistance. That resistance could be weights in the gym, it could be resistance band tension, it could be your body weight. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter whatsoever. Like, you are going to find it's more convenient a lot of the time to be able to stimulate that high level of effort and some of the other more deeper nerdy things that need to go on to stimulate muscle mass. You'll find it more convenient using weights and using machines and conventional gym stuff, but it's actually not necessary whatsoever. As long as you take your body close to a fatigue point, and that fatigue point is kind of important because that's what's going to have your body activating as many muscle fibers as possible. As long as you do that, your body will call into activation as many muscle fibers as possible, and assuming you then take them through some kind of meaningful contractile range of motion, i.e. movement, against that resistance, they will have some kind of stimulus for growth. So the argument against bodyweight training is probably that it's less convenient, and I can understand that because you are working just with your body and whatever you might have available and your own current levels of strength, and that might make it a little bit harder to be able to push your body to those points safely or practically. For example, if we're looking at, say, the lower body, okay, you can very easily jump into, say, a leg press machine or a leg curl or extension, or put a barbell on your back even, and you can push your body pretty easily close to a fatigue point to get that stimulation you require to trigger muscle building responses in the body. But it's a little bit harder when you're working just with body weight because your legs are so strong and they can handle a fair amount of work. Does that mean it's impossible to do that? No. It just means that maybe you've got to be a little bit more intelligent with the pace at which you lift with, which ranges of motion you tend to emphasize and stay in a little bit more, maybe using the use of like partial ranges of motion in the bottom half of like a split squat or a lunge, and different things like that to be able to take your body close to the fatigue points without having any external resistance. But there really is no reason why you can't create the same kind of response if muscle building is your goal, using just body weight. Or if you have available just very, very light weights or very, very minimal equipment, some resistance bands and things like that. It's been a big savior for a lot of people to be able to run through a lot of like home style, minimalist style training in the last few months with a lot of the COVID-19 lockdowns. And something I've actually really enjoyed playing with in terms of programming for a lot of my people with minimalist training. And it's been surprising just how much of a response and how much of a benefit you can get with very, very, very limited equipment in terms of muscle building and strength gains. So in terms of, say, strength gains, which is the other part of this, or what this question could be asking as well, can you gain sufficient amounts of strength using just body weight? Well, the first thing is, how are you choosing to express your strength? So when we think of strength in the gym, we typically think of your barbell squat, your barbell bench press, and your barbell deadlift, conventional deadlift. Now, are those the only metrics that you should be using to gauge your strength? Not necessarily. Like, what if you choose to gauge your metric of strength in terms of how easily you can pick up the couch to move it across the living room? You know, we choose to have the metric of barbell squat bench dead, but that's a powerlifting metric when you really think about it. What people really want when they strive for strength gains is being able to perform whatever it is that they care about better. Now, if you're a powerlifter, of course you care about the big three movements and you have to do them to an extent, which means you're going to be kind of limited with bodyweight training. But if your goal is to just get a stronger body, then you've got to first define, how am I going to measure, what metric am I going to use to be able to express my strength? And it could be so many things. And then understanding that, can you then get stronger using bodyweight training? You absolutely can. Because strength is simply going to be an outcome of repeated efforts and improving the skill of whatever it is that you want to be stronger at. So, in a roundabout kind of way, if you are looking at improving your squat bench dead for powerlifting purposes, you can build up the requisite, I guess, hardware machinery of muscle mass and joint integrity, joint health, and even power output somewhat with bodyweight training, but you are going to miss out on the skill component of performing the squat bench deadlift without having a barbell or weights to work with. However, you can definitely build strength that can be expressed in so many different ways just using body weight. If our random arbitrary metric for expressing strength was my ability to be able to move my couch from A to B, can I achieve that using just body weight? Absolutely. Can I achieve that as easily using just body weight as opposed to using weights in the gym? Absolutely as well. I definitely can. So the only reason why you might need weights to build strength is if your chosen metric for expressing strength is the barbell squat, the barbell bench, or the barbell deadlift as a power lifter, or any kind of weights thing. I guess an important aside here to think about is that strength is a skill. Okay, there is going to be a component of building more muscle and building joint health and things like that, but the most important thing that goes into strength is that it's a skill that is neurally wired, and your brain's got to get better and better and better and more proficient at being able to express the strength on whatever task you choose. So the more that you can do that, the better you will get at improving strength. And that's how some people, especially like Olympic lifters or even power lifters, they're able to stay in the exact same weight class year after year, but get significantly stronger. You know, it's not steroids, even though I'm sure many of them do use steroids as well, but a big part of it is just that they're getting better and better and better at performing that lift, and they're getting more efficient at being able to recruit their body to express strength on those specific movements. All right, let's go into the next question, shall we? All right, here we go. Interesting one. Regiv PT, what do you think about behind the neck pressing? So that's a good question because it's something that I've actually changed my mind over the last maybe 5 years or so, where behind neck pressing or behind neck pull downs or any of these, I guess, awkward positions or maybe potentially dangerous positions that we can go into with training. Are they good? Are they bad? Should you do them? Are they good for hypertrophy or for muscle building or for strength? It is a whole big fat it depends. And it's something that I've used a lot in the past. When I was heavily into bodybuilding many years ago, I would use the behind neck press in a Smith machine as one of my primary pressing movements to stimulate my shoulders. And I saw a lot of growth from that among the other exercises as well. Does that mean that it's the best movement out there, that I should have done that? No. And if I had my time again, like thankfully, knock on wood, I didn't get any injuries from that. But for all intents and purposes, I very well could have. Because the fact is, putting your body into that extreme position of this external rotation, which requires a lot of mobility into this extreme angle behind your head here, I can get there. I've got the good mobility for it. And you might have good mobility for it as well. But does that mean that it's going to be inherently any less risky than pressing, say, to the front or doing other movements altogether? No, it's still going to be a riskier exercise, and it still could potentially cause a lot more degradation to your connective structures in that area. And the fact is not as to whether or not it's going to cause that as a negative outcome. Is it going to destroy your joints? Yes, maybe not, maybe no, maybe yes, who knows really. But the fact is, if you could choose another exercise that can give you the exact same benefit, the exact same reward with less risk, wouldn't you want to do that? And that is what I think we should be thinking about with exercises like this. Like I've done behind neck pressing. I was a big advocate for it because I think, hey, it's fine. And it's a good way to maybe even push your body to maybe improve access to ranges of motion. Because I really do believe that when it comes to mobility, the most important thing is to just move your body more. And the more you can take your body into different positions, the more you can probably assume is going to gain control over those positions, which is what we term loosely as mobility and access to ranges of motion. Now, the difference is though, just because I believe we should be able to have the ability to go back here, like to be able to reach behind your head, because if you can't do that, how are you going to put a jacket on? How are you going to put on your seatbelt in the car? It's going to be kind of challenging if you can't reach back there. How are you going to even scratch the back of your head if you can't reach behind your head? Just because I see that as an important movement, as an everyday mobility kind of thing, doesn't mean that we should be training it under heavy loads. They're two different things. Being able to access a range and wanting to move freely into that range is very different to then exposing that range of motion to a lot of extra stress and strain with external load, i.e. behind the neck pressing or behind the neck pull downs. That's something I've really changed my mind over more recently in the last probably 3-4 years, I would say, where I've realized that, yeah, you can still get the same mobility or movement benefits using significantly less load. And maybe you want to do that exercise, but I just wouldn't use it as a pure strength builder or a pure muscle builder. It can maybe feature in your repertoire if you have the mobility and there's no pain there. But I'll even then say you could probably just get away with not doing it whatsoever and just trying to work on mobility in that position using other exercises altogether that don't have the same limitations that a behind neck press or a behind neck pull down exercise does. All right, next question. Let's see how many we can get through today. I am kind of curious. All right, so we've got a string here of a few that are quite similar. Treska Z Teska asks, is massage gun useful? Thomas_Cooper is asking, do you receive massage therapy? What is the best way to relieve tight muscles? And Being Fong Vu asks, do you recommend periodic massages or anything like that for stiff muscles? So all these questions are asking very loosely, what do I think of these passive modalities? Soft tissue massaging, any kind of remedial massage, physical therapy kind of stuff, or the use of these different foam rollers or massage guns. What do I think of them? And are they going to help to relieve tightness in a muscle or tight muscles or stiff muscles? What are my thoughts? I think that for the most part, they're a complete waste of time. When you're looking at trying to improve something on a tissue level, like the quality or the integrity of your arm or your hamstrings or whatever it is might be that you perceive as being tight, these different modalities have very, 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 very limited benefits. They're not going to change the length of your tissue. They're not going to change the attachment sites of where your muscles insert to on the bone. They're not going to change the length whatsoever or have any meaningful long-term change. What they do is they do, hopefully in some context, depending on how it's done, they can create a relaxation response. They can calm your nervous system down. They can be very relaxing. okay? And that can be beneficial, for sure. But as well, that's going to be quite transient. And there are many ways that you can go about getting relaxed that don't require you getting massaged or beating yourself up on a foam roller or a spiky ball or mashing some tissue or anything like that, or spending a lot of money on something like a massage gun, because they do seem to be extremely overpriced. So the benefits from them are going to be more neurological and more relaxation than actual anything happening on a direct tissue level. So because of that, I see them as largely overrated. But for some people do like using those kinds of things to help them relax. I say, hey, go for it. And there could potentially be some benefit from getting things like massages for maybe a blood flow perspective, which could be important for maybe a rehab perspective if you're trying to heal from an injury, or if you're in some way immobilized, again, maybe due to an injury. It could be useful to have somebody else working on you to help to perfuse some blood, some nutrients through that area, because you're not really moving that much because of your injury. That's a very, very specific context though. And I would say for the vast majority of people who are foam rolling, who are using massage guns, who are getting massages, they're thinking they're doing it to improve the health of their muscle. I think it's going to help balance out their training, help to improve their range of motion and things like that. And I'll tell you, it really isn't. Doesn't mean that these things are bad, but just make sure that you're doing them for the right reasons. You're making a proper informed decision. So, like for example, the use of language like tight muscles or stiff muscles. And I'll tell you, like, I'm guilty of using these words as well, and something I'm actively trying to remove from my vocabulary. Because to call a muscle tight, it's very easy to understand. Like, you all understand when I say, hey, I've got tight hamstrings, I've got tight traps, I've got a tight, stiff neck. You all sort of can understand and conceptualize what I'm talking about there. But the danger of using vocabulary, the danger of using language like this is the confusion that it creates and the misinformation that it spreads. Because say I feel tension or stiffness or tightness in my neck, in my traps, in my shoulders, in my hamstrings. Are those muscles actually tight? Not really. The muscle itself hasn't changed whatsoever for the most part. The insertions where it attaches onto my bones hasn't changed whatsoever. The actual quality, the integrity of the tissue hasn't changed whatsoever. What probably has changed 9 times out of 10 is my perceived sensation of that muscle. I have a heightened level of awareness of that muscle for some reason. And that is why I believe like some of the best ways to go about relieving this tightness or this tension is to take that muscle through as much of a controllable, contractile range of motion, i.e. train it properly in the gym. What this will then do is it will take the joints or take the muscle through as much of an achievable range of motion as possible, and that tends to relieve a lot of this tightness and tension and stiffness that we experience. But we've got to keep in mind that we're not adding length by doing this. We're not adding range of motion by doing this. We're just taking our muscle into positions we're meant to be taking it into. I would say that a lot of people's mobility issues, a lot of people's range of motion issues, a lot of people's tightness issues that they experience, they simply stem from them not understanding the joint ranges of motion that they should be accessing in and out of the gym, and they're not understanding how to properly take their muscles through a controllable contractile range of motion with load. I see this so much where it comes down to poor exercise selection, or it comes down to poor execution of the exercise or poor setup of the exercise, and there are all these big missing gaps with somebody's training in the gym. And like a simple example, let's take something like ankles, ankle mobility. That's a humongous one that people always come to me saying, hey coach, how do I improve ankle mobility? So Bala, I'm just going to completely derail this question and go to a pretend question. Hey coach, how do I improve ankle mobility? Well, you could say, oh, we've got to get massaged. You've got to get a foam roll, you've got to bash your calves, you've got to work on your heel cords, you've got to like do some kind of voodoo massage gun stuff onto your feet or your soleus or your perineal or something like that. And again, those things are going to have very limited benefit. They're going to have maybe some kind of small perceptual change on relaxing your nervous system, maybe. Although if you've ever had any work done on your calves, you know how painful it usually is and how much of a heightened response and a stress response it actually creates. And you also know how transient the response is. Or maybe even if it does improve your mobility, it's very, very short-lived. For like 10 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe a day, and then it springs right back because your body is created that tension for a reason. Now, if we then look to what is ankle mobility really? Ankle mobility is also could be I guess translated to something called dorsiflexion, or your ability to pull your toes up towards your shin. Or, said another way, is also your ability to push your knees as far as you can over your toes, whilst keeping your heel on the ground. Now, when you really think about that, dorsiflexion, knees over toes, heel staying on the ground. If you look at a lot of the exercises that we do in the gym for the lower body, a lot of the exercises take away from our requirement, our nervous system's ability to be challenged to go to that range of motion, and our ability to go there. If you think about like a barbell squat, or even a machine squat, or any kind of squatting movement, most of the time we're using our hips to get into that range of motion. We don't have to push our knees as far forward. I mean, you definitely can if you have that innate ability, but it's not always a prerequisite. And we're not always necessarily trying and striving and cueing ourselves to push our knees forward. What's the most common cue people give when it comes to squatting that I see a lot is push your knees out, not knees forward. It's push your hips back, don't push your knees forward. And first of all, knees over toes, not bad whatsoever. Let that happen, okay? It's not a bad thing. It's part of a very important thing of just natural human biomechanics that you should be doing every single day. But we're not being cued for that. If you look at the setup of most machines, most leg presses, most hack squats, one of my favorite machines, the way that the foot plate is set up is that it actually puts you into a degree of plantar flexion, which is the opposite of dorsiflexion. If you don't know what they are, you can Google them later once we're done in here. But the way that we perform most of the exercises, the way that most of the exercises are set up, and the way that we're choosing our exercises is we're not being demanded to go into dorsiflexion. We're not being demanded to push our knees over our toes. We're not being demanded to keep our heels down and to pronate the foot or to roll your foot into the big toe or the ball of the foot. These cues are missing from a lot of what we do in the gym. So of course it makes perfect sense that if you never challenge your brain to dorsiflex, if you never challenge your brain to push your knees over your toes, if you never challenge your brain to have good ankle mobility, why would it have good ankle mobility? We've got to start challenging that, we've got to start changing that. Many exercises you can play with to start doing that. One of my simplest, most favorite ones is to do a front foot elevated split squat. It tends to be easier to cue pushing the knees over the toes. You can still screw that up 100% for sure, but I find that it is a very simple introductory way to start to get people used to pushing the knees forwards more and getting to those degrees of dorsiflexion. All right, whew, that was a long spin-off rant. Let me have a sip. Hope you guys enjoyed that. And let's find something else to answer, yeah? All right. The _ cats. Is there a best position when sleeping? Maybe. I guess, again, it's always going to come down to it depends on what you're comfortable with sleeping in. Sleeping position is a very hard thing to change because you're unconscious. So maybe, let's say that it was bad to be sleeping in a particular position and you slept in that position. Is it something you're realistically going to be able to change? Maybe not. You might find that when you have the right bedding, the right mattress, the right pillow, you might find it easier to then reposition yourself into a slightly better position. So that could be something you'd be looking into. But just keep that in mind that even if there is a better position or there is a less than optimal position, if you're sleeping in that position, it may be a very challenging thing to change. And don't freak out if you can't. Don't think of it as a big problem that's going to be screwing up your ability to train or to be pain-free or to be healthy for the rest of your life. Because there are so many people out there who may sleep in these suboptimal positions who are pain-free and who don't experience any issues whatsoever and who can move completely fine. And there are many people who sleep in what you might call an ideal position and they have all kinds of issues. So please keep that in mind when I'm about to tell you what the best positions very well may be. My thinking about this, and this is just my own take on it, it's not necessarily correct, but my take on what would be the ideal best sleep positions would be ones that minimize your body being put into positions for a long period, like I guess end range positions for a long period of time. So, for example, sleeping on the stomach. If you're sleeping face down, you're not going to be sleeping flat face down because then you won't be able to breathe and you'll probably die. So what your body will do is it will turn your head to one side. What's going to happen the entire night? One side of your neck and your traps are being chronically flexed, one side is relaxed. You're probably going to have your arms not straight by your sides here, but one arm up, like this kind of position here. in a flex position. So one arm's in this upwards rotation more, and maybe this is going to create some imbalances. Now, is it really? I don't know. I can't tell you for sure, because the fact is, a lot of the time when you're asleep, your body's completely paralyzed. All your muscles are in a complete state of relaxation. So does it really matter where your body's positioned? Probably not, because your muscles don't have any electrical tone going through them. There's not any like resting tension in the muscles because you're in that stage of sleep. So I guess the whole imbalance, tension, pain argument is kind of not a very strong one when you really start thinking about what's happening in the body. But what I do think happens when we're in this position here is it could be obstructing airways somewhat. And I think that's important. I think when it comes to getting as restorative sleep as possible, we should be allowing our body to get into the most comfortable position as it can to open up the airways, to have the airways as unobstructed as possible so you can breathe easily. That will help you fall into deep restorative sleep. So most of the time, if you could choose it, I would say sleep on your back and sleep on your side. But it's not just about doing that, it's about make sure you have the right bedding equipment to allow you to do that. For example, if I'm sleeping flat on my back and I've got a really high and firm pillow, what's going to happen? I'm going to be sleeping like this. My head will be elevated. As a result of this, my airway is going to be very, very obstructed. So what you should have is, if you've got a very soft mattress that you sink into and a very firm high pillow, that may not be ideal even though you're sleeping on your back. So ideally, if that really is a thing, I'm really just wanting to paint a picture here. Ideally, you should have your mattress and your pillow matched up. So if you have a very, very soft mattress, if you prefer a soft tension mattress that you really sink into, you should have a very minimalist pillow. Because otherwise you're going to find yourself being shoved into this position like this, which is not going to be ideal because you're going to obstruct your airways. If you're sleeping on your side, the same kind of thing applies. So imagine now my bed is over here, I'm on my side. If I've got a very, very firm, let's go a soft mattress, I'm sinking, my shoulders sinking into that mattress, but I've got a very, very firm pillow, I'm going to be like this. And it's going to potentially obstruct my airway as well. Similar to if I was sleeping face down, head turned to the side. So sleeping on your back, sleeping on your side could be better than sleeping on your front, but could also be worse depending on your equipment, depending on the mattress and on the bed. So mattress and on the pillow. So if you're sleeping and you have a firm mattress that you don't sink into, your head's going to be floating in midair here. So you would want not a soft low pillow, because otherwise you'd be like that. You want a relatively high firm pillow so everything's in better alignment for your airways. So that's a combination you want to be thinking about with mattresses, sleeping positions. I would just say, try not to overthink it too much, because you will move through the night. I think it's very few people who actually stay completely static the entire night. It's completely normal to go through a couple of different rotations, different body positions as you sleep through how long it is you're sleeping for. So maybe you start out on your back and you end up on your back in the morning, but you might go through your side and even your front throughout the night. So what I think is more important than thinking about what the best sleeping position is go for comfort, but then choose your bedding equipment, choose your mattress and choose your pillow in accordance to what gives you the most freedom and removes any obstruction structurally from your airways. And that will be mattress and pillow. All right. I think it's really important. I think it's a very worthwhile investment, considering how long you spend in bed sleeping. Hopefully anyway, you should be making the investment to make sure that you have a good quality mattress and pillow. Now, a good quality mattress and pillow doesn't mean spending a lot of money. Okay, it just means matching them up appropriately. It means making sure that you're finding the bed not just comfortable, but it's also fitting well to your body in terms of the firmness and the pillow that's being matched up to the mattress. I'd probably recommend, if I had to go one way, I'd say choose a mattress first, and then from there choose a pillow, because the mattress is going to be based on your comfort, and the pillow should then accommodate for whatever gap is created by the comfortable mattress that you've chosen for yourself. All right, next question. Okay, let's go a different one. Nick Ridpath PT is asking, what things would you say helped you best grow your business? I've really been thinking about this a lot more the last couple of years. So trying to understand a lot more of my why and my purpose behind why I do what I do and what I'm doing all the time. Because, you know, a lot of it has come, well, all my business has come from organic growth. I started personal training in a commercial gym back in 2009. So 11 years ago, and I was doing that for about 7 years before I started branching off and doing a lot more online coaching, online consulting. Then I started touring around the world running live events, and that turned into putting it onto an online platform, which is my app and my website. And now here, I'm on YouTube, and I didn't even know what's going to come next. But a lot of it just comes down to I just do whatever the market has asked of me. Whatever people have said, hey, I need more of this. It's okay, I'll create that for you. It's been a very organic process. But what has really helped me understand, I guess, the growth, or what's helped me grow the most as my business, is being able to be more self-aware as to why I do what I do. And for the longest time, I thought to myself, oh, it's because I love training. Oh, it's because I love helping people. And that was, they're very common things people say as to why they do a lot of what they do. But in all honesty, as much as I do like doing those things, they're not the main reason why my business grows, okay? Because wanting to help people is a very, very important factor. Enjoying what you're doing, enjoying training, enjoying the gym is a very important factor to growth. But you can love training and you can love helping people, and they're not necessarily going to help with growing a business. You could even love the business mechanism. You could love marketing. You could love running a business. That in itself is not necessarily going to be conducive to growing a business. I think, and this is probably going to be disproven in the future by myself as well, the more I think about it, but at the moment, my best answer is, I believe what's helped me grow the business the most is my genuine love for solving problems. That's what it comes down. That's what it came down to when I first started working in the gym in 2009, and that's what it comes down to today when I'm trying to create more and more content for my app and for YouTube and to just be able to, I guess, help people. I'm trying to solve problems. I'm trying to find a solution to a problem, and I love doing that. I love being posed with the problem, like a question saying, how can I answer this question better? How can I solve this problem of trying to improve muscularity? How can I improve this problem of somebody's, sore wrist or whatever it may be? And that continual pursuit for trying to find a better way to solve the problem and not accepting my current answer as being the best solution to that problem has pushed me to continue to work. And it's the love of that has then been directed into a love of training or a love of helping people as well. But if I had to really think about it, it comes down to enjoying the problem solving that goes into a lot of the work that I do. And I think when I really think about it, a lot of people really do connect with, it's a very human thing to enjoy solving problems. I think as humans, we just evolved to thrive on finding solutions to whatever problem it was that you were posed in life. So, yeah. Anyway, next question. I don't know how long we've been going for. I can't see the timer, but I think we're getting pretty long. Maybe I'll answer, go through maybe one or two more questions. Okay, here we go. Shan, France. Shan, France. I always change between an English accent, France, and an Australian accent, France. Difference between probiotic/digestive enzymes is either important. Interesting one. So gut health, digestive health. These are both classified as gut health or digestive support supplements. They are very different things. So digestive enzymes, that is going to be the replacement for what your body should be producing endogenously in your pancreas, so pancreatic enzymes and things like bile that gets produced in the liver. That helps to break down the food that gets digested into your body. So quick crash course in digestion. You get a hamburger, take a bite out of the hamburger, you chew it up, it goes into your stomach acid breaks it down. That big slop then goes into your intestines. In your small intestine, a little duct opens up and digestive enzymes shoot out into the small intestine to help break down that partially digested food into tiny little particles that can then go into your bloodstream to be absorbed into the cell to do all the fun stuff. That's a pretty good crash course, I think. Anyway, digestive enzymes are produced in the pancreas and in the liver. And for a host of reasons, maybe you have insufficiency there. Maybe you've had your gallbladder removed, which is a reservoir, a holding station, and a concentration station for bile. So maybe you produce less bile as a result of this. Maybe you produce less pancreatic enzymes for a whole host of other reasons. Maybe simply because you're not chewing enough, so you don't break down your food enough, you don't create enough signals to your brain saying, hey, produce more digestive enzymes. Maybe you eat in a rush, maybe you eat in a stressed state. As a result, less digestive enzymes. So digestive enzyme supplements help to replace it, help you break down the food. It could even just be that you're eating a lot more food than what your body can handle because you're trying to grow. You're trying to go up a weight class in a sport, or you're trying to build muscle mass, which requires you eating in a surplus, which could be above what your body currently is naturally used to being able to do. So supplementing in that case could potentially be useful. I always come back and say, when it comes to digestion, go to lifestyle first. No amount of supplementation is going to outweigh the importance of chewing your food, of eating in a stress-free environment, in a non-distracted environment. So I know many of you guys are watching this right now while you're eating. So in that case, thank you. Keep doing it because it helps this channel grow. Don't stop watching me while you're eating. But if you're watching anything else, stop watching it when you're eating. You want to be distraction-free and just taking your time and eating anything that you enjoy. That's going to help so much more than any supplement ever will. Eating appropriate amounts of food for your body is going to be really, really important for digestive health. But assuming you've checked all those boxes and you have a good reason to be taking digestive enzymes, that could be useful. You could add them in. Probiotics, so that is the beneficial, supposedly beneficial bacteria that is found within the body, within your large intestine, that helps to further digest and break down food, and that may have a whole lot of other health benefits systemically throughout the entire body. Now, the research on probiotics is actually very confusing. It's still a very, very new and emerging topic. Maybe the last 15, 20 years only is where a lot of this research really is. And whether or not it's beneficial to be taking them as supplements is still yet to be determined, because there is still no absolutely known for absolute certain perfect gut flora or microbiome or species of bacteria that should be flourishing in any person's gut. You could have two very, very healthy individuals who have great digestive health and great overall health, and they could have very, very different species of bacteria thriving in their gut. And if you give them both the same probiotic, it can have very, very different effects on their body. It could help one person, it could be very deleterious for another person. So I can't really say for sure. It's something I wouldn't necessarily say we should be taking long term, just like any supplement really. It's a very, very, very big it depends. And I find myself recommending them less and less and less and less and less. Quite interestingly, I remember reading a research paper, I think came out last year or the year before, where typically probiotic therapy is recommended after you've used a course of antibiotics. Because you use antibiotics and it kills all the bacteria, not all, but a lot of the bacteria in your body, and then your body's got to then restore that bacteria. And they say take probiotics to help to restore it faster. In this paper, which I think is just one paper, it's not necessarily factual, it's not necessarily the be-all and end-all, but what they found was it took subjects longer to restore their internal bacterial species, their microbiome. It took them longer to restore that when they took the probiotics versus if they did nothing at all after using antibiotics. So the use of probiotics actually delayed their healing time to antibiotic therapy, which I found fascinating. And so it's more than enough reason for me, like all these different variables going into gut health and probiotic, but we don't know enough about it to then say, you know what, it's probably not worth your time taking probiotics unless you've been specifically recommended it by your healthcare professional, in which case they do what they tell you to do, because I'm just a random guy on YouTube. I don't know what your context is. I'm guessing your doctor, your gastroenterologist probably knows better than me in terms of what you should or should not be taking. So listen to them as well. But don't listen to a random influencer saying, oh my God, take this gut health supplement, it's going to help with your gains, because they definitely don't know what they're talking about. All right, I believe it is time for us to say goodbye, because I feel like this has gone for quite some time. Thank you all for joining me for another Q&A. Hope you enjoyed and learned something useful. If you did, make sure you share this video around. I really appreciate you watching this all the way through to the end. I know most people don't. If you're still here, thumbs up to you, fist bump to you, because most people by now would have turned off the video and gone to the next video. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys next time.